Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got the Stoeger STR-9 SC, the subcompact. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. And please consider supporting the channel on Player, formerly Utreon, where we can do some types of videos that are no longer allowed on YouTube. This isn't really a very new gun. It's been around for a couple of years, but I haven't really seen them until just recently. I was at a local FFL and they had these, and they had them on sale, and then there was a rebate on top of that. So it made it kind of, at that price that it ended up being, it made it interesting to get. The MSRP on these is around $349, so they still come in less expensive than the Glock 26, which this one is kind of mimicking. They also have a Glock 19 size and a Glock 17 size. So this has got a few features that are an enhancement over the Glock 26 and a couple that might be missing. So let's start out with, I did a first look on this, and in the first look I liked it, and I was hoping that it would work well at the range, and it did. It was reliable from the first round to the last round. It ate everything we fed it. It comes with one 10-round magazine, and that's a negative because it only comes with one 10-round magazine, and the magazines are very hard to find. At the moment, just before I filmed this video, I took a look. There are some variations of the 10-round and the 13-round on Stoeger's actual site, but when I looked a week or so ago, they weren't, so that varies quite rapidly. And Able Ammo and a couple other sites. So they are available, but they're hard to get. You're not going to find them in your local gun store, and it does come with just the one. It does not use Glock magazines. They are nice magazines, but they're specific to this particular gun. Oh, by the way, the other site was Midwest Gun Works that I saw them on. I do believe, and I'm assuming here because I don't have any to test it, that like the Glocks, the larger magazines will work. So I'm presuming the 13-round and higher magazines will work, and just like a Glock, they'll stick out the bottom. But I don't have any reason to believe they won't work. I did see on several sites where Beretta mags will work and CZ mags will work and others. I didn't find that to be the case. I tried an assortment of different mags that I have, and all of them either didn't seat correctly, they'd be wobbly, or they wouldn't lock back. So though they may fit and they may lock in place, I don't think they would be reliable. So, do it at your own risk. The best thing to do if you do choose this is to get the mags that come with it. Now, as mentioned, it has some features the Glock 26 doesn't. The big one here is the rail. It's got a full regular standard Picatinny rail, so you can put whatever you want on it. On the Glock 26, if you want to put something on it, you're relegated to, this one happens to be a 27, but they're physically the same. You're relegated to trigger guard lasers. And though they do work well, there's a limit to what's available. With this, if it'll fit in this space, then it'll mount on the gun with that standard Picatinny rail. That's an improvement over the Glock. It does theoretically have a replaceable backstrap. You can pull a little up in here. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but there's a little clip right here where my finger is. Get a flashlight in there and see if I can get it where you can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see a little differentiation. There's a little clip in there, and you can pull that clip off, and you can take this backstrap off. There you go. It's right here where my finger is. I'm moving my finger around on it. Anyways, that clip comes out, backstrap comes off. The gun is not designed to operate without a backstrap, unlike the Glocks. This is the medium backstrap, but it doesn't come with any different, at least in the subcompact, it doesn't come with any backstraps in the box. I did see a couple variations of this gun on their website. Their website's pretty bad to navigate, and some variations of the STR series do come with the backstraps in the box, others don't. So it's kind of hard to follow. Mention the serrations. It's got nice front and rear serrations, and the front ones are not just decoration, they're actually functional. They're easy to get a hold of. It has an optics ready variant available. This particular one isn't, but it does have an optics ready variant available. And this one has night sights, and not only does it have night sights, but they've got the white ring around them to make them easy to see. The ring tended to gray a little bit in the poor lighting of the range, but it was still very usable, and it was easy to pull tight groups with it. A lot of the things you see on it, that from a design perspective, you can recognize the Glock in it. This is heavily based on a Glock, but they've taken their own path with it. It's got kind of a flatty trigger with a little hook on the bottom of it. It does have the inertial toggle, and it also has the internal drop safety plungers that you're used to on Glocks and other striker guns. So it is designed to be a drop safe weapon. It's got some nice positioning for your thumb and some other ergonomic features. It is comfortable to hold. I'm going to put the magazine in it. This is a dummy, an inert dummy round. And I'm just going to put this magazine in there. And you can see you get not quite a 3-finger grip, but close. Close enough that you're going to get a nice, comfortable, good-sized grip on it. There is a flat, flush magazine available if you can find it in stock, but it's still a 10 round, but it's flush. Now, the one thing that it was kind of a bit of a disappointment is Glock mags have a steel liner with a polymer housing around them, and that adds thickness to the magazine. These, they didn't do that. They have just the steel. There was room, if they'd done it, probably to get another couple rounds in here by taking advantage of the space that was gained by getting rid of the polymer housing. They didn't do that. I kind of wish they did, because at this point it's going to be harder to compete with some of the micro compact 9s that are out there, the high capacities like the Hellcat and the P365, all of which are having 11, 12, or 13 rounds in roughly the same footprint. From a pricing perspective, it is a good MSRP. Comes in a couple $100 less than a Glock, but got to factor you're going to have to buy magazines and some other things. The other thing that I kind of saw was holster availability. There's a couple companies that do make holsters, and Crossbreed is one of them, Alien Gear, and so the holsters are out there, but they're not every manufacturer. I'm going to chamber that snap cap, and that's, again, it's an inert dummy round, and you can see the loaded chamber indicator sticks up. You can feel it, and also if you're sighting down the gun, you can, if you're paying close attention, you can maybe see it, but really can't. You almost have to feel for it. And it's not visible from the front of the gun. Of course, you can see the yellow ammo because of the bright studio lights. But like all, it's got basically all the same standard safety features. Now in a Glock, the extractor sticks out over here. On this one, it sticks up from the top. I'm going to demonstrate the trigger. It's got a decent trigger, actually. Minimal take-up. Kind of a longish break. It's light. It comes in around 4.5 pounds. Nice reset. It's not the super short reset, but it's a good reset, and you're right on the wall. And then again, kind of that longish break. I'm not going to call it creep because it is smooth. That longish break, and you're all the way at the back. That all the way at the back may be a little of an issue if you have bigger hands, because with this all the way at the back, if you've got larger hands, you're going to have a tendency for your finger to kind of want to hook up like that and make it difficult to stay on target. I didn't have a problem with it. Hammer had a little trouble with it. His hands were bigger than mine. So that may be something to consider if you've got really large hands. If you've got small hands, you're still going to be fine because the trigger pull distance is actually pretty reasonable on this. And of course, the Glocks that it's based upon solve that with the backstraps. You could put a larger backstrap on it to kind of bring your hand back out a little bit. Overall, I found it, as I mentioned earlier, reliable. I found it relatively easy to shoot well. It was comfortable to shoot. It handled recoil well. And it ate the standard range ammo that we were feeding it without any difficulty. So the gun does work. The dimensions on it, it's 6.54 long. It's 4.5 inches tall. And I'm measuring that with the pinky extender magazine that comes with it because it doesn't come with a flat plate. So you buy the gun, this is the way it comes out of the box, that's the size it's going to be. You can shorten that a little bit if you get the flush base plate magazine. And 1.2 inches wide, and that's measuring out to the slide stop slide release. Overall, it's a decent size gun. It's right in there with the Glock 26 and everything else. In fact, I got a Glock 26 right here. That one's a 27. I got a Glock 26 right here. And you can see it's a little bit taller. And actually this post-it note may give a little bit of contrast to make it a little bit easier to see the difference. If I set it in here, below that little lip at the back, if I can get it to lay flat, you can see it's probably about 1/4 of an inch. Now if I set it on the top of the lip, now you're going lip to lip, you're getting closer to a 1/2 inch at that point. So it's close to the size of a Glock 26. It is a hair longer, but not significant enough to make a difference. And for that length, you are picking up a Picatinny rail. Trigger guards are roughly the same size. They're different, kind of a different styling, but close enough to the same that if you're comfortable with the Glock 26, you can operate the STR-9C quite easily. I found that it was not much of a transition to go from holding the STR to holding the Glock. The Glock does have a little bit thicker body. The grip's a little bit fatter, but overall, they're equally easy to use. I'm going to go ahead and take it apart. To do that, though, I'm going to kind of show you a couple things. So this is a Glock 27, same basic design as the 26, just different caliber. And you can see how closely based on the Glock it is. This is a Gen 4 27. It's got the 2 pins for the trigger, just like the Stoeger. And it's got the same little kind of serrated pull down for the takedown. The Gen 5 Glock 26 is a single pin, and that's a change Glock made when they went to the Gen 5s. So they were a single pin in the early days. They had some problems. They went to the double pin, and then they've probably resolved the design issues that caused that and went to the single pin. So this may be kind of falling in between Gen 3 and Gen 4 in what they're basing it on. Taking it apart's easy, just like a Glock. You pull the trigger, pull the pins down, slide back just a hair, and take it apart. But I'm going to go ahead and take apart this Glock at the same time so I can show you some comparisons between the internals. So I'm going to use this again. It's a Glock 27, which is the same internal design as a Glock 26, to show you how similar the designs are. Almost to the point that if I had them from this angle and didn't tell you it looks like 27 needs a good cleaning, but if I didn't tell you which one was which and just kind of held them up, you might not be able to tell the difference. So it is fairly close of a clone of the 26. When I show you the slides, almost the same thing. If I didn't tell you which was which, this one is the Stoeger, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They look identical. There's a few nuancy differences, but overall you can see how closely based on the Glock it is. Take the recoil assembly out. It does have a nice barrel. Now, one thing that is different, it is conventional rifling as opposed to polygonal. If I can get the camera to focus on it, there it goes. It is nicely rifled. It's very sharp, clean rifling, very well done. One thing I noticed is the coating on the barrel hood and the barrel itself is kind of rough. It hasn't caused any function issues, but when you're cleaning it, it has a tendency to want to snag pieces off your cleaning cloth. It's just kind of a rough surface, but it does work perfectly well. It's a blued design as opposed to the Glocks. The feed ramp is also, it's a nice feed ramp. It's very similar to the Glock. What you see on here is a little bit of copper following from a bullet, but it's got that same kind of roughish texture. But again, I had no feeding issues with it. It just worked. But that is different than Glocks. Usually the Glock barrel and everything else is pretty smooth. It's not mirror polished like an XDM or something like that, but it is pretty smooth. The machining quality in here is just as good as a Glock. This is a nitride finish on the slide assembly itself. You got the drop safety plunger, the hook for the striker. So overall, well machined gun. These are made in Turkey. Their headquarters is here in the United States in Massachusetts, and they're owned by Benelli, which is Italian, but the guns are predominantly made in Turkey. That hasn't been a problem. A lot of Turkish guns are good. Now there is one quirk about this I'm going to show you when I go put it back together. And I did mention in the first look that I've had this with a couple Glocks on occasion. Sometimes with a Glock, if you get this hook out of position, when you go to put it back together, it won't go back together, and you either have to pull it back to release the drop safety, or push down on the piston and push it forward. What I found with the Stoeger is 100% of the time when I take it apart, to get it back together, I have to push down on the drop safety plunger, push the striker forward, or it won't go back together. Not a big deal. It's not something that affects its function at the range or when you need to use it, but it is something you have to be aware of, and it is different than a Glock, and I'm not really sure why. I'm not sure what the difference is that causes that, and maybe that's something unique to the tolerances of this particular version of this model. You might buy one and not encounter that. But one other thing. It's got a metal guide rod. That's one of the complaints about Glocks is they're plastic. Even though I've never had one break, a lot of people don't like that. It's got a metal guide rod, and it's got metal sights. So the sights are not only are they night sight, but they're metal. So there's a lot of quality features in it at that price point. Biggest disadvantage really being the fact that it only comes with one magazine and they're hard to get. Beyond that, it is actually a well-constructed, nicely done gun that was easy to shoot well and is a viable replacement for a Glock 26, especially if you're wanting to keep the price down. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Play, or Rumble. We're pretty much everywhere. And thank you.